when you're a college athlete, you have really, if you can think of it broadly, two sources of earning. And one is the licensing agreement directly with the university.
Sure.
And the second is third-party brand promotional opportunities. And you can go about those one or two ways. You can try to go get those yourself or through your agent, or you can have a marketing agency that's closely tied to the university and your sports programs do it. And that's what Rally is.
Yeah, I didn't see through it. Like, honestly, if I'm being honest, the first thing I thought of was, where the hell was my NIL, you know?
I think we all felt that a little bit. I was in New Orleans as a rookie, like, you're kidding. It just got approved. And like, I remember the moment. I didn't know if it was
well, there were so many just maddening examples that were just obvious that the NCAA was wrong. And this was going back years.
Initially, my mind went there. Then I thought about it, and I immediately became happy for those guys. Like, thinking, you know, someone's been making NIL for a long, long time. It just wasn't the players, you know. And so I'm glad that the money is finally finding its way to these student athletes for using their name, image, and likeness.
And I think the thing that sets Notre Dame apart really is you're also trying to develop them as young people, that being members of a community is important to them. Mm-hmm. And that means everything from, you know, kind of thinking outside of yourself and being available for others to help others, but then also when you're going through tough times, asking for help and that knowing that you have a community around you that's going to help you.
Welcome to the Playbook. Excited to have both you. Mike Martin, Pat Garrity, both GMs, GM of football, GM of men's and women's basketball at Notre Dame. Thank you guys for joining the Playbook.
Appreciate you.
I feel like it's the best way to start is to talk about, you guys are both amazing evaluators of talent. You've done that your whole entire career. Big weekend last weekend. Different perspective for myself as well. I've now been a player, a fan, and then I got a little perspective in the booth, so got to view the spring game a little differently. Thoughts on this weekend? Big weekend for recruiting, but also for your team.
Yeah, I think it was awesome because, you know, it was sort of the end of the spring ball, sort of the pinnacle of it all. And, you know, just seeing the guys get out and compete on the grass was awesome. And having the top recruits here, our top recruits here to kind of witness that, it was awesome. And I think they got to see our coaches in action, you know, on the grass, which I think is big for them. You know, they get to meet these coaches, talk to them. They're sort of interviewed, so to speak, with coaches, but actually seeing them in their element and coaching on the grass, I think is big. And we do our best to make it like a real game. Like, we try to simulate, you know, right from warm-ups, pat and go, you know, all of those different things to try to make it as real as possible. And so, and I would even say the crowd, man, I think we had the largest turnout and largest attendance in Blue Gold game history. And so even more than when you were here, but
I was going to say, why do you think that is? No, I think you're right. It was 50,000 maybe plus.
50. Wow.
Probably because of many things, but great weather.
Yeah.
CJ Carr coming back. I mean, many other things, but an exciting season ahead. How about for you? I know you got to go. You can just enjoy as a fan and as a dad, but you are both evaluators of talent at the highest level for sport. What was the weekend like for you going to watch, and is it surreal watching your son run out there as well?
Well, number one is my son Henry's walk-on rising senior.
There's no more walk-ons.
And so that's true. There's no more walk-ons.
He
So
has earned his spot.
this is our Super Bowl. Like, this is like so he got in at the end. He had some reps.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the film so we can watch him. But no, he's had like a tremendous time here and moved into a role where he's doing a lot of the signaling now. So while the game was going on, I was watching the signals without knowing what was being signaled.
I will say, as a quarterback, the signalers, it's a big deal. If he, and I know he takes it seriously and he should, because it is like the first part of communication for these quarterbacks. But from my perspective, I remember like creating a relationship with our signaler and understanding his signals and his rhythm. When he was sick or out and you get someone else, it does make a difference. Like, you're not on the same page, and I know he takes that job seriously, as he should, and it is a big deal. So
it's a tough spot for him, because like, if we don't get those signals right, we got problems. And so we're kind of, you know, we want to get him in and get him some snaps in the game, but we can't mess with the signaler either.
No,
you know what I
feel
mean?
like
And so it's a tough deal for him.
It's true.
Yeah.
I want to get into both your guys' stories just as we go, but would love for one of you can take it. It's just you spent a lot of time in the NFL, working 20 years in scouting, in the NBA as a player, and then working in the NBA. What eventually, kind of give me your story on how you got to this point, how you got here, what brought you to Notre Dame, and eventually, like why college athletics kind of called your name. Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go real quickly. After I got done playing, I was looking to do anything other than basketball, and going through that thing as an athlete of like defining yourself outside of just what you've done for your entire life. So went to business school. I worked outside of basketball for a few years, but as happens to most guys, I think is 2 years, 3 years, 4 years away, you start missing the game. So that led to coaching, travel basketball a little bit, kind of flirting with the idea of coaching in college basketball, and had the opportunity to get back in the NBA when my coach from Orlando, Stan Van Gundy, took the job in Detroit of president and head coach. So he was putting together a front office. It was a chance for me to go in there. So I was with the Pistons for 6 years. Didn't win enough, and so when happens to us, happens to when you don't win games, is they brought in a new group. And so that was the time my son was just going into high school, and I was just enjoying being a dad. He moved on, came here. We were empty nesters, and I was looking to get busy again, and was going down the road with another NBA team to the point of almost accepting a job when Pete called and said that, hey, we're looking for someone here at Notre Dame to help us with the basketball programs. And I don't think I would have been looking for a role in college sports had it not been for the opportunity here at Notre Dame, just because of what this place has meant for me and for Henry.
Makes sense. How about you?
And I never really thought of working in college. You know, I'd worked exclusively in the NFL 20 plus years, and college wasn't something I ever really thought of. You know, and I think largely because like these positions, right, that we're in, they didn't exist. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, they up until recently, the last 5 years.
Just right after me.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so, you know, kind of working on the pro side of it, you know, I was just sort of trying to work my way up the ladder, you know, and for, again, the last 20-something years, I was trying to get to a GM position, you know. Can't say that's where I like, you know, when I got into it, I wasn't necessarily thinking, hey, I got to be a GM. But when you get in, you get competitive and you want to be at sort of the height of your profession, you know, and have the opportunity to kind of have some autonomy and run some things. And so that became sort of the goal, you know, and I would say after, you know, a bunch of years, man, it didn't seem to be happening, you know, and we talk about when I was in Detroit, I think 3 years ago, we went to the NFC Championship game. You know, we helped turn around a program that, you know, was historically not so good, you know, and then the following year we went 15-2, but still very little movement, you know, within, you know, the NFL in terms of the GM jobs. And so I was just kind of sitting there thinking about what's next, you know, and I didn't really actively seek this job, you know, but I was sort of in my mind seeking something else. You know, I was thinking like, man, there's got to be more. Like there's, you know, again, we were having this success, but I remember sitting in the office watching film and like pausing it and looking around at the walls and thinking like, man, there's got to be more. You know, there's got to be more to like life in this, you know. And not too long after that, I got a call from Marcus, who had sort of been, I guess, I was brought to his attention by some mutual people, you know, that we have in common. And he reached out and sort of explained the opportunity that existed, you know, and I was really like drawn to the idea of helping to develop young men, you know, and I know that sounds kind of like, that's not really, you went there because, you know, but like, you know, 10 years ago, that might not have interested me as much, you know, but now I have a son who's getting close to college age. You know, I got a daughter who's right behind him. And, you know, like it's really become something that, you know, I'm passionate about, sort of developing young people. And so when I got an opportunity and when he mentioned, you know, that sort of above all, that was sort of what we would be doing here, you know, it was something that I couldn't pass on, so it was a good
When
opportunity.
you talk about the development of young men, I mean, I know what you mean, but why? I feel like myself included, everyone around Notre Dame is like, well, Notre Dame's just different. We recruit a different kid, and it's just different. And then I catch myself saying, it's just different. It's just different. But like the development of a young man or woman here at Notre Dame, why is that so attainable? Like, why is it? Can you explain it? Like, why is Notre Dame different to you, and why is what you wanted to achieve by developing these kids? Why is that, a possibility here at Notre Dame?
Yeah, I do think I agree with you. Notre Dame is different.
I just catch myself saying that.
I mean, it sort of attracts a certain kind of young person, right? Like, you don't come here if academics aren't important to you. You don't come here if they're, you don't want to be the tops at what you do. Well, most of these people, even if they're not in sports, they were the valedictorians of their schools. Like, there's some idea of excellence that they have, and so we sort of draw a certain type of young person, and I think that was what I was sort of drawn to, because honestly, like you, Pat, I don't know if I'd want to do this job many other places, right? So, but even these young people still need guidance and still need some direction. And so for a lot of them, I thought I would be able to help guide them and give them some ideas and thoughts on how they can reach their ultimate goal, and on the football side, like I'm sure you grew up wanting to play in the NFL. You did ultimately. I grew up, I remember my brother wanted to be a doctor, sister wanted to be a lawyer. All I wanted to do was play football, and so I had aspirations of playing the NFL, and I'm able to sort of use that my experience with the NFL to sort of create these bonds with them and kind of walk them through like what I think it takes to get there. And also, in the event that you don't get there, here are some tools that you can use in life. And so that's something that we do here. But yeah, I do think we draw a certain type of young person, and they're open to the ideas of, what's in front of them in life, and we're able to use kind of our position to help them.
Anything on that end, or do you agree?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the thing that I think sets Notre Dame apart is like just obviously we're developing students at the highest level, elite academic institution, trying to do the same in athletics and win national championships. And I think the thing that sets Notre Dame apart really is you're also trying to develop them as young people, that being members of a community is important to them. Right. And that means everything from, kind of thinking outside of yourself and being available for others to help others, but then also when you're going through tough times, asking for help, and that knowing that you have a community around you that's going to help you. And that's both with your peers that you go to school with, and that's kind of as you step out into the world with people that maybe came before you too. I think that's like the one distinct thing about this place. It's just being part of something bigger than yourself.
No question. So when NIL, pivoting back to NIL for a second, when NIL hit, or when it was approved in 21, is it fair to say it wasn't like a moment for either of you where you were like, oh, this is different, or you were focused on professional level at that point? Was there a moment where you were like, this is interesting, and maybe it's a threat to NFL or NBA, or did you see it as this is a great opportunity? What was your kind of immediate thought when NIL became a thing?
I mean, I never thought that it would get to like the level, like when dollar figures at the level of it is right now. I paid attention to the O'Bannon case. Like I'd played against Ed O'Bannon in the early, I guess it's the mid 90s. And for people who aren't familiar, like the Ed O'Bannon case was the first challenge of NIL. Like Ed O'Bannon played at UCLA and short stint in the NBA and moved on and was playing a video game and realized that like number 31 of UCLA, who had a bald head and was a power forward, but no name on his back, and he was getting no money for that. So that was a court case that really spurred everything. And I think that that's like the original conception that everyone had, is that as a college athlete, you should be able to like profit from that. Yeah. Like if someone is going to make money off of your likeness in your athletic career, like you should, like in every other part of business in the world, you should be able to share in those profits. But like, again, the perspective of that is like, think about what that means in professional sports and what people are making in professional sports from promotion versus what they earn as players. Like it's a small fraction in relation to the total pie for most guys.
It's funny you bring up that case, and that's what you remember from UCLA. I remember, and I could be wrong, but like I remember when I was playing, everyone always talked about that quarterback at Northwestern.
Oh,
do you remember him?
Yeah.
He like was fighting for it at that time, kind of around my era that I was waiting for, and then it got approved in 21. The reason I ask you, like, was it a moment that you were like, oh, this is interesting, or were you so busy doing other things? I was in New Orleans as a rookie, like, you're kidding. It just got approved. And I remember the moment. I didn't know if it was
well, there were so many just maddening examples that were just obvious that the NCAA was wrong. And this was going back years. There was a Oklahoma State basketball player named Desmond Mason.
Yeah.
Terrific player, played in the NBA, was also a talented artist. He was prevented from selling his art because of his status as an amateur athlete. Jeremy Bloom, who was used to return kicks for Colorado, and I think Philadelphia Eagles, was prevented, and he was also a world-class skier, but couldn't go and sell, couldn't earn sponsorship dollars as a skier because of it. So you knew that that just didn't make any sense. But I think even those kind of cases, I didn't anticipate the world that we're in now.
And you didn't think threat or opportunity. You just thought, this is interesting. We'll see where this goes. But one thing for sure is you didn't know how fast it would move to now. Yeah,
I didn't think it. I didn't see threat. Honestly, if I'm being honest, the first thing I thought of was, where the hell was my NIL?
I think we all felt that.
Initially, my mind went there. Then I thought about it, and I immediately became happy for those guys. Thinking, someone's been making NIL for a long, long time. It just wasn't the players, And so I'm glad that the money is finally finding its way to these student athletes for using their name, image, and likeness. And so the opportunity there, kind of, excited me. And I couldn't think of a better time. I do know, though, that this didn't really come with a read-up manual or instructions. Mm-hmm. It feels like, it was like, well, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. Now we're doing it, and they're just kind of throwing this money out. And so it did create some issues, I would say. And people try to say, hey, this landscape is sort of the Wild Wild West. And, honestly, we're trying to figure it all out, but I think it was something that was held back for so long. And then, it sort of built this momentum. And then finally it was a go. And they're just, again, there's just sort of no real rules and direction, and so, and we're still trying to figure it out,
That leads perfect to my next question is for a fan, for an ex-player, how do you keep up with NIL? It feels like even if I took a year off and we're playing in the NFL and wasn't paying attention, you come back and it's rule after rule and I missed some things. And how do you guys as GMs, is there a different approach? Are GMs talking to GMs? How do you guys keep up with NIL and continue to always be there at the beginning when rules are changing and all that?
Yeah, I think a couple of ways. Number one, there is information out there. There's a number of journalists who are day-to-day covering this spot on, so you have to keep up with all of that, and that's how primarily we get our information from our compliance group, who's on top of that, and seeing everything new coming out in terms of guidance from the NCAA or from the CSC. But honestly, the most useful way of doing that is just being in the market, and that means talking to agents, getting an idea of where the market is headed for everything from prospects and recruits out of high school to transfer portal to picking their brains on the type of deal structures they're seeing from other schools. That's being in the market. There's probably no substitute for that in terms of understanding what's going on.
Yeah. And I think, I try to set our own market, right? This is sort of what we're looking to do. Now, that's not real. You have to adjust and you have to have some flexibility. But, for me, it's, hey, this is what I'd ideally like to do, in terms of what the market is at certain positions for certain players, and tried to use a little bit of the strategy that we used on the professional level. and sort of tried to use percentages. We're going to use this percentage at this position, of the overall budget. We're going to spend, we'd ideally like to spend this much in the quarterback room, right? But like anything, the market sort of goes where it needs to go. Like, Pat is sort of telling us here, and if you want something, it's or a person, you have to sort of be willing to go where that takes you. And that's difficult, man. That's tough because you can blow up a budget really fast, trying to get a few good players and a few good people that fit what you do,
A lot of people talk about, they're like, it's just an NFL system now, or it's totally a professional league. What are some of the main similarities? You've been in both locker rooms, and I know like when we meet, I see it's got the guys, it's a white boy. That to me is like total NFL.
Yeah.
What are some of the similarities, both NBA and NFL, where you're like, we're running this the same as we did, or maybe this is a big difference?
Well, I think, again, you start with this budget, and the budget is very similar to a salary cap, some different rules, but like very similar to a salary cap. Even sort of the contracts that we're now creating as it relates to, whatever the compensation is for a student athlete, becoming more and more like, some of the professional contracts. And even like the portal, the portal there's some similarities to free agency, it's just for us, unfortunately for us, we got free agency every year, in terms of each player having the free agency every year, which can be sort of tough to keep up with. But there seems to be, a move to sort of this, professional structure, if you will, but, I do, there is a difference, and the difference is we're still dealing with young kids coming out of high school that are still having to choose a place. There's the recruiting part of it, and there's trying to get them to understand that, you choose a school for certain reasons, even beyond the financial piece. And so there are some differences, but there are, as you've sort of mentioned, there are a great number of similarities.
Yeah, in basketball, I think the biggest similarity is the fact that your top 3 or 4 players are going to determine like your season, and that's where you should be allocating the most of your resources. Right. And the difference between the great teams and the teams that are good is just the ability to add. You have the great players, you have the people that are driving winning, and then you're able to add really good depth players. And so I think that's everyone approaches it the same way. The biggest difference is how you are able to like accumulate prospects into your system. Because in the NBA, you have a draft, you have a rookie salary scale where the pay is defined and it's capped. Yeah. And you have a system for bringing in prospects that maybe aren't ready yet to help you, but have bright futures, and to have them not take up a large portion of your budget. That's just not the case in college, because there aren't these anchor points like there are in the NBA. And when you think about the NBA, salaries tend to like coalesce around these anchor points. And so at the bottom, it's the minimum salary. Right. At the top, it's player max salaries. There are salary cap exceptions that salaries tend to cluster around. And so you have a pretty good idea when it comes to evaluation. In college sports, there's just not.
There isn't one. Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. We, when you have the competition for high schoolers, right, and to your point, there's no like, hey, rookie salary pool, or you can only spend X amount of dollars for these guys, you kind of get into this, competition for the services of these young people. And, it's just, it's tough, because it makes it very difficult to sort of win, right? Like, here at Notre Dame, we offer so many other things, right? There's the academic piece, the education, the value of all of that. But, we also, you got to be in sort of the same range, financially, in terms of trying to compensate a player, right? They may want to come here, but if we're $1 million apart, that might be difficult, And so it's hard to sort of find the balance, and it's hard to come up with a formula that makes sense for incoming freshmen that on the football side, like for you, incoming freshmen may come in, they may be future lottery picks and they can contribute right away. On my side, there's development that's necessary. In all likelihood, you're paying a lot of money to players that come in and sit,
right.
And that's like, it's tough. So, you're paying them more sometimes than you are. Some of the backups are, rotational guys and contributors. So I think the way it's set up in football is that there's two groups of people that you have to pay, or that the bulk of the dollars go to. It's your starters and your impact players, and then the incoming freshmen.
Right.
And those that are sort of in between, you're trying to find the balance in what works for your budget. And I think that's tough. And I don't know that, I don't know if that can continue. I don't know where that goes.
Yeah, and then I just one more point to add is the reason that first round picks and second round picks in the NBA are so valuable is because there is a fixed dollar amount you're spending over 3 or 4 years with restricted free agency on the end of that. So if you are able to find someone that's able to contribute above what you're paying them in their first, second, third year, even their fourth year, you're accruing all those benefits over 4 years. The biggest difference in college is those get marked to market immediately the next year. So if you find the diamond in the rough that no one else recruited, and he can come in and help you, or she can come in and help you win right away, it's great for 1 year.
1 year.
That is immediately going to move up to market the next year.
Right. It's interesting.
And for us, like, we're having to do sort of the opposite, right? Like you'd like to bring someone in, at a, wherever financially you need to go to get them in, but then you're having to kind of course correct and self-correct if they come in and they're not going to be able to contribute right away, or you think they're a little more developmental than you might have initially thought. Now you're having to adjust, what you're paying them, and that's tough, right? That's difficult because now you got someone who's seeing maybe their range of compensation cut in half, and now they're like, well, man, you paid me this last year and now you want to pay me this, and the portal, even though there's a young man that might be sitting here and who needs development, there's a school somewhere that'll say, hey, I'm taking this guy from Notre Dame. He might be fourth team there, but he may start for us, and they're willing to sort of compensate them in ways that we can't, so that sort of makes it difficult, man. Makes it a tough deal.
Where do you, both of you, where do you see this college, people love to say the college landscape, where do you see the college landscape in 3 to 5 years? Is there anything that in your head that you're like, I could see this being a major difference, or do you just think, it seems like it's changing so rapidly.
I think it's going to change. I think it'll evolve, and I think it'll change, just like the professional levels did. It wasn't long ago where incoming rookies in the NFL made more than guys that were playing, and that had to be adjusted, had to be corrected for obvious reasons. And I think, with college football and college sports in general seemingly emulating what kind of happened at the pro level, I would think there will be some corrections and some things put in place, some bumpers, right? Sure. I think they'll need to actually make some adjustments for sustainability. Yeah. Just because this where we're at right now, it's going to be tough to sustain.
Any thoughts on your end for basketball? Is it different, or do you think of it as this needs to change, or this is the?
It's following the same path that Mike described. I think the thing that everyone is waiting for, this is the first year where the regulatory framework is being challenged, in that I think everyone is out there waiting for enforcement to happen, and whether or not enforcement happens and whether it is able to happen and not challenged in court, I think is the big next issue that people are waiting to see. In professional sports, this has always resolved itself the same way. And I can think back, less familiar with the labor history in football, but pretty familiar with basketball. And it took over 20 years for the NBA to be on a really sustainable path where now the future of the league is bright, and a lot of the focus gets on how much revenue and the top line is growing, the popularity of the game. I think the story that gets missed is their cost structure was solved over 2 lockouts where big portions of the season were
college
missed.
lockout.
Right, and I mean that in professional sports, that's how these types of issues are resolved. If your cost structure and player compensation is reaching a breaking point, there's labor conflict and there's a work stoppage. I don't know what the analogy is in college sports.
We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, no work stoppage. We need jobs. We need jobs.
How about a quick day in the life of a GM? I mean, basketball, football, what does that look like? If you could give me an inside look of what a day would look like for you guys as the GM.
Yeah, every day looks different to me, and for me, I think it took all the way up until now to understand why it's called the general manager. You generally manage a lot of stuff, and it can be day-to-day things with rosters. We may be, discussing injuries on our team. There may be a recruiting side to it where you're talking with coaches and helping to sort of go through evaluations, vet players, come up with a ranking for our current players and, incoming high schoolers or prospects. There's talking to agents and discussing, currently right now with these 2027 players that are, the future class, agents are reaching out, trying to understand what the range of compensation is. So you find yourself taking calls, all day, all night, trying to figure that out to kind of lock in players. By the way, at the same time, trying to construct a roster and figure out, what do we need now to be successful and to compete for national championships. And next year after the draft, after we lose, 15 to 16 players, how will we adjust, to continue to be competitive? So, there's just so many different pieces and parts that every day looks different. But, it's been an adventure, man, but it's been fun.
Yeah, I mean, the similarities with this and with working in professional sports are you are spending a lot of time leading up to key decisions that you have to make, trying to prepare to make those decisions. So you're evaluating your own team, you're trying to project your own young players, you're trying to figure out where pieces fit and who is your core and, who are nice rotation pieces and what your needs are going to be. And so if you just kind of think through a school year, in the fall for us, there's the recruiting portion of it with high school players. There's the preparation for the season. Mm-hmm. When the season starts, you're evaluating your own team. You're evaluating who could potentially be out there as transfer portal targets in the spring. And then leading up to conference tournaments, NCAA tournament, that's when the conversations really start to heat up, when you're trying to be out there kind of figuring out what's going on in the market, who's available. You're fielding incoming calls from agents. You're trying to just keep relationships with them throughout that period. And then when the transfer portal opens, you have all of your plans for what you're going to do, and then you end up doing something different.
Completely different. It's funny you say that. I always kind of joke about how our portal went, like this last portal, before fantasy drafts, right? And when you're drafting for fantasy, you do all these mocks and you can kind of figure out, man, the first, I want to get this, I want to do that, and I could have mocked this a million times and there's no way it wouldn't have ended up the way it did, It was the sort of, we found a bunch of different targets. The portal here it's so fluid. It's not like, this is where it differs from free agency is, you have all these months knowing exactly who the guys are going to be available to you, Right. But on the college side, it's not the case. And so, there were guys still playing that we knew that, would ultimately end up, in the portal, we just weren't sure which ones it would be. Mm-hmm. And fortunately for us, we were able to, even though the first wave kind of, came and went and, we weren't super active or real active players, on the first part of it, we were able to sort of exercise patience because we knew that there are going to be more guys. They're playing right now. And the ones that are playing are pretty good, and so we knew that there would be some options for us. But it's just hard to sort of forecast how it's going to go and project how it's going to go, because you just have no idea.
Right. Let's talk how you guys work with Rally and how we could even use me as a base case. Say I'm a high school recruit and kind of when it starts, how both you work with Rally. I'm a point guard or I'm a quarterback. I'm 16 years old and I decide, I'm coming to Notre Dame. Like, what are the first? I think for me too, like as a fan now, I'm always wondering how that works now.
Just in taking a step back, just for the listeners to understand, like when you're a college athlete, you have really, if you can think of it broadly, two sources of earning, and one is the licensing agreement directly with the university. Sure. And the second is third-party brand promotional opportunities. And you can go about those one or two ways. You can try to go get those yourself or through your agent, or you can have a marketing agency that's closely tied to the university and your sports programs doing it. And that's what Rally is. And just bluntly, you cannot be competitive at the highest level of college sports if you are not able to generate for your student athletes those third-party brand promotion opportunities. And that's really what Rally does. So yeah, it's a big part of what we do. Rally interfaces with the athletes directly, with their family members, with their agents. They are the marketing agency for our sports teams and our student athletes. And we wouldn't be able to field teams that were competitive without them.
Makes sense. From the GMs and the other colleges that you've got a relationship with, is it very similar structures or is Notre Dame doing it differently with Rally? Because I wouldn't know what Michigan State is doing and how, or Alabama. But do you have any idea on that?
There are variations of structures which are set up, and some are in-house with another larger entity that's associated with the university. Some have been brought in-house to the university directly. I think that there's different ways that you can structure it, but by and large, it's basically the same.
Yeah, it's pretty similar.
Yeah. Being this young now and being able to get exposure and financially, be compensated. What is Notre Dame maybe doing differently or just doing at the highest level to teach these kids financial literacy, or just to make sure that these kids are doing this the right way? Touching money at 16 years old is life-changing, and it's a positive in my eyes, like yours, for many kids. But how are these kids, doing it the right way? Because I know the NFL stat is terrible, and those kids are 20, 21. Yeah. The amount of kids that go broke, it's a daunting number. Now it's even earlier. How do we do it differently at Notre Dame to teach these kids to do it the right way?
Yeah, I think we're intentional about it, right? We start early with connecting them with player engagement, here for us. For football, we have Myron Tongavaloa Hamosa.
Former teammate?
And Myron is awesome, does a really good job of connecting these young men with individuals that can give them guidance in some direction on what to do with this money. Again, there's, it's a lot of money in the hands of young people without necessarily directions coming along with it. And so I think probably unlike, I don't want to say unlike most places, but I'll say one thing that we do a good job of is, getting them some guidance, getting them direction in terms of, our kids are learning about, how to invest money. They're learning about how to do their taxes and how to prepare those taxes. And they're learning about creating, their LLCs and different things that sort of, will help them, in what they're doing. How to use the money, some of their NIL money to create passive income. We got a large majority of our team, they're actively doing real estate deals right now. We have an awesome guy who heads up business real estate school, Michael Malley, who works and advises a lot of these guys, and it's sort of a passion of his. He's not being paid by them or anything like that, but he just is there in their corner, and he's able to kind of help them and give them some suggestions and ideas as to, how to use this money to make money and set yourself up for life long beyond football. And I think that's kind of where we're a little bit different, is we're trying to help to give them some instruction as to how to use their money to help themselves.
Is that kind of like a summer bridge program. Essentially, like I remember when I was here, summer was like, we're working out, we get a little bit more time finally. We would always have former players come speak and present about wealth management, real estate, insurance, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Is it that now? Is that what Myron is creating for these
Yeah,
guys?
he puts together those opportunities for different individuals to come in and speak and give them, some, real knowledge on what to do and how to use their money wisely. But he also, one thing we do too as a recruiting staff is we put together sort of a commits club where our commits, they meet monthly, and they'll get on with, it may be a guy running a Fortune 500 company.
Really?
It may be, a successful, business lawyer or someone in sort of, marketing, branding, like experts in their field kind of come on and sort of speak to these commits about, what things will be like moving forward, and not, hey, down the road, you'll do this internship. Like they're preparing them now for business and for finances and all those things that come along with this opportunity they have as a student athlete at Notre Dame.
That's amazing. Is there anything unique basketball might be doing, or is it very similar?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is just the numbers are smaller, but basically it's the same. It has to be part of your off the floor player development now. Yeah. Like in prior years, your player development was, how to learn to be a functioning adult for the first time out of your house and how to take care of, to cook and
things have changed.
But now this is just such
now
an
we're starting LLCs.
It's such an important part of it, right? And the complexity can go up, and it's the first time that any of these young people are going through this right now. They don't have the experience to screen for, who is legitimate and who's on the up and up and who might not be.
Right.
And so you try to do that, and at the same time, like you have to be aware that they have a lot of voices and people outside of you and your team that are going to be getting at them. So you just try to be kind of compassionate and a resource when you can.
And if they handle it the right way, they get a huge head start in life. I think that's good. Thank you guys so much for being on the Playbook. I appreciate it. Pat, Mike, thank you. And excited for next year, and excited to see what you guys can continue to do. So go Irish. Thank you.
Irish.
What's going on, everyone? Ian Book here. Thanks for watching the Playbook. Be sure to keep up with launches by following us on Instagram, X, and TikTok at Playbook_Rally. See you on the next episode.